There are certain areas in the world where a large number of missing persons and mysterious disappearances occur. We all know of the Bermuda Triangle, where people, ships and airplanes are said to have disappeared without a trace. These unexplained disappearances has captured the human imagination for decades. But there is another area of the world where people also mysteriously vanish. In this section of wilderness, thousands of people have vanished without a trace. The area itself has come to be known by names as Alaska's Bermuda Triangle or simply the Alaska Triangle. It's the numbers that make the Alaskan Triangle so mysterious. In the triangle alone, there have been more than 6,000 disappearances since 1988. Why do the disappearances seem to be more concentrated here than elsewhere in the state? 500 to 2,000 people go missing in Alaska, never to be seen again in any given year. Alaska has a missing persons rate that is almost twice the national average in the US. Hundreds of rescue missions are conducted. Most often, they return without finding the missing person or even any evidence at all. The triangle slices through 4 of the state's regions. Its borders connect Anchorage and Juneau in the south to the Barrow along the state's north coast. The expanse within the triangle's perimeter include vast areas of largely unexplored and unforgiving wilderness, which according to many is the most likely culprit for the disappearances. Alaska has a vast mountain range, almost 12,000 rivers and more than 3 million lakes. It is also home to dangerous wild animals, unforgiving weather, hazardous terrain, and approximately 100 active volcanoes. Flying over the landscape on a clear day makes for a beautiful sight. But if you add fog and wind, and a plane ride over this landscape could potentially become lethal. The area began receiving widespread attention when a small private plane vanished somewhere between Anchorage and Juneau on October 16, 1972. The plane, which was a Cessna 310 with a tail number N1812H, was carrying U.S. House Majority Leader Hale Boggs, Alaska Congressman Nick Begich, and his aide Russell Brown. The 3 men were planning to attend an election rally for Begich in Juneau. The pilot was a man named Don Johns. He was a military veteran with more than 17,000 hours of flight time. The plane left Anchorage at 9 a.m. and the flight should have taken approximately 3.5 hours. Johns planned to fly southeast over the Turnagain Arm of Cook Inlet, through Portage Pass, over Prince William Sound to Johnstone Point and then on to Jakutat. Finally, from Jakutat, he would fly directly to Juneau. The weather conditions were less than ideal, with poor visibility due to fog, icy rain, and turbulent headwinds. When the plane did not arrive in Juneau and was declared missing, a widespread search and rescue operation was launched, involving 40 military aircrafts, 50 civilian planes, and 39 days of searching an area of 32,000 square miles. But no trace was ever found. No wreckage, no debris, and no human remains. The search was terminated on the 24th of November and the 4 men were declared dead on the 29th of December. The conclusion made by officials was that the plane had likely crashed and became buried in ice or sank into Prince William Sound. It was believed by many that Johns decided to fly the plane in marginal weather conditions. Due to the fact that Boggs and Begich were headed to a political rally in Juneau, it was assumed that they pressured the pilot to fly them there as fast as possible. Ironically, both Boggs and Begich ended up being re-elected to the House of Representatives, despite both being presumed dead. Though this disappearance wasn't the first one in the area. On the 26th of January 1950, a military aircraft, the Douglas C-54 Skymaster, with 44 passengers on board, also disappeared without a trace. The flight was from Anchorage, Alaska, to Great Falls, Montana. The aircraft made its last radio contact 2 hours into its 8-hour flight. a search and rescue program searching 350,000 square miles of the Pacific Northwest was launched an hour after the aircraft failed to arrive in Montana. No trace of the aircraft has ever been found. The search was officially cancelled in February the same year. The notifications were sent to next of kin, informing them that the passengers were presumed dead. A Cessna 340 carrying a pilot and 4 passengers flying from Yakutat to Anchorage vanished in 1990. The pilot, Jeff Roth, sent out a transmission that he was at 12,000 feet and was heading towards Anchorage. Roth's wife listened to the tapes and stated that she heard her husband say something about 6,000 feet and icing conditions. The FBI analyzed the tape but failed to confirm this. This ended up being the last transmission as the plane disappeared. Neither the men nor the plane was ever found. But it's not just planes that go missing in the area. Many hikers, tourists, and Alaskan residents have also gone missing in the Triangle area. This next story is a rather famous one with both a book and a movie adaptation of said book covering the story of Chris McCandless. If you're unfamiliar with this story, here's a brief summary. In April 1992, McCandless hitchhiked from South Dakota to Fairbanks, Alaska. An electrician named Jim Gallion gave him a lift to the head of the Stampede Trail. Gallion, who was the last person to see Chris alive, was concerned that he was not equipped to survive the Alaskan wilderness due to him not having the appropriate equipment. When Gallion dropped him off the trail, he assumed that Chris would be back in a few days when hunger set in. When hiking the trail, McCandless eventually came upon an abandoned bus alongside an overgrown section of the trail near Denali National Park. Chris attempted to continue on but was stopped by the thick Alaskan bush, and thus he returned to the bus and set up camp. Chris survived in the area for a little over 2 months before attempting to head back to civilization. But the trail was blocked by the Teklanika River, which was flowing higher and faster than when he crossed it back in April, due to the river thawing. At this point, he headed back to the bus, re-established his camp, and posted an SOS note on the bus which read, "Attention possible SOS, I need your help. I am injured, near death, and too weak to hike out. I'm all alone, this is no joke. In the name of God, please remain to save me. I am out collecting berries close by and shall return this evening. Thank you, Chris McCandless." McCandless kept a journal which documented 113 days in the area. His final written entry was from day 107 and simply read, "Beautiful blue berries." Day 108 to 112 were marked only with slashes, and no entry was made on day 113. On September 6, 1992, a group of hunters were looking for shelter and came upon the bus. Entering the bus, they found what was described as a lump in a sleeping bag. The hunters radioed police, who arrived a day later. It is believed that McCandless had died from starvation 2 weeks prior to his body being found. Now, this case is a bit different, as Chris was eventually found. But the area in which Bus 142, also known as the Magic Bus, was located in is within the Triangle, and therefore it does deserve a mention, if only as an example of the dangers that the Alaskan wilderness brings. Some people believe that the Alaska Triangle is comprised of one of the so-called vile vortexes, a term coined by cryptozoologist Ivan Sanderson. According to Sanderson, there are 12 of these vortexes situated along particular lines of latitude around the Earth, with the most famous one, of course, being the Bermuda Triangle. The natural electromagnetic fields of the planet is stronger in these parts than anywhere else in the world, and they are home to unexplained disappearances and other mysterious phenomena. Vile vortices are claimed to exhibit extreme electric, magnetic, and electromagnetic anomalies, as well as energy vortexes. Energy vortexes are said to have an effect on both mind and body, as well as causing visions, hallucinations, and disorientation. It is also said to cause engine malfunctions, which could potentially explain the plane crashes. Allegedly, some search and rescue workers have reported having auditory hallucinations while in the area, usually described as an angry swarm of bees. Some more outrageous theories even claim that energy vortexes are actually doorways into spiritual dimensions and gateways to other realms. Could this be the reason for the mysterious disappearances? Alaska is also home to many Bigfoot sightings throughout the entire state, and many of the reported encounters with these creatures often end in violence. In 1920, a local man from the city of Nolato died after trying to fight off an unknown creature said to be human-like and standing on 2 feet. In 1943, a report came in that a man had been attacked by an unknown creature in the wilderness about 18 miles down from the town of Ruby. He later died of internal injuries. The town of Portlock, or Port Chatham, is home to numerous reports of sightings of a Sasquatch-like creature. A newspaper in Anchorage ran a piece on a retired schoolteacher in 1973 who had taught in Port Chatham during World War II. She spoke of cannery workers that went into the mountains to hunt, but that never returned. When search parties went out to look for them, they found no trace of the workers. Then rumors began spreading that mutilated bodies had been swept by rains down the mountain and into the lagoon. They had been torn apart in a manner that didn't resemble wounds from a bear attack. After a number of unsolved murders and disappearances, the residents grew tired of living in fear and fled the village in the 1950s. But the rumors didn't stop when the town was abandoned. If this creature really is Bigfoot, and it is as aggressive as many of these reports claim, could this be the reason why so many vanish? The Tlingit tribe of Juneau, Alaska, and the Tsimshian tribe of the Pacific Northwest coast both believe in an evil spirit known as Kushtaka, meaning land otter man. They are thought to be otter men that can shapeshift into the form of an otter, a human, and possibly other forms as well. The legend goes like this: if you are walking through the wilderness of Alaska, you might be approached by a man or a group of men. They will come across as kinsmen and will seem very friendly and very kind. Should you become lost or injured, these beings will appear and they will claim that they're there to help you. They will attempt to lead you deeper into the wilderness. If they are successful, they will do one of 2 things: tear you to shreds or turn you into another Kushtaka. Another method for luring potential victims is to imitate the cries of a baby or the screams of a woman. They might also use the form of an otter to lure people to them due to the animals being very cute and very playful. The Kushtaka is said to be terrified of dogs and will avoid them at all costs. Therefore, the natives will travel with dogs to protect themselves. Imitating the cry of a baby is something that Bigfoot allegedly does as well. This, in combination to the Kushtaka's shape-shifting abilities, means that there are some who believe that all the Bigfoot sightings in Alaska is simply the Kushtaka taking on another form. Plane crashes in Alaska are very common, a majority of which due, at least in part, to poor weather conditions. Camping or hiking in this area is dangerous due to the animals and the unforgiving terrain, and many tourists that come to Alaska to camp and hike are simply underprepared to deal with it. With that in mind, it's not surprising that someone might get lost in the middle of nowhere, nor is it that shocking that search and rescue teams have a hard time finding people who go missing. The story of Chris McCandless does serve as an example of how easily one can become stuck in the Alaskan wilderness. Even more so if you are ill-prepared to deal with the conditions of said wilderness. The bus where Chris stayed has become a popular tourist attraction. but the hike to it is dangerous, and many people have become stranded or injured on the trail, and some have even lost their lives by the same river that forced Chris to stay behind at the bus. Though while nature might be the most likely culprit, many people still feel that that doesn't explain why so many disappear without a trace. In the end, we may never know for sure what happened to the people that disappeared, or why there are more disappearances in the Alaska Triangle than elsewhere in the state. Whether it's people succumbing to and being swallowed up by the elements, strange vortexes, ancient evil spirits, or even dangerous cryptids, it's the sheer number of people that vanish into thin air that's the most alarming. And the numbers is what makes the Alaska Triangle one of the greatest unsolved mysteries to this day.